to our next session, which is a fireside chat under the title of Addressing the SME Financing Opportunity in the GCC. This session will explore alternative funding sources, including venture capital, private equity, angel investment, and crowdfunding to bridge the financing gap. Please allow me to introduce our interviewer for this fireside chat, which is Mr. Darius Alexander. He is the Managing Director of the FTI Consulting. Join me, please, in welcoming him to the stage. And we have James here. Okay. Darius is going to interview Mr. Anurag Guglani. He is the board member of the Multiple Family Business Groups, chairperson of Wazir Holdings, U.S. President's Lifetime Achievement Award. Wow. He is the UAE, was selected as one of the UAE top 100 businessmen. Let's give him a round of applause. Last but not least for this session, we have Mr. Alvaro Abella. He's the Managing Director of Gulf Capital. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage. Darius, over to you.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to MOI, the Ministry of Economy, and Moiat for hosting us here this week. Thank you to all of you for joining, and thank you to our esteemed panelists. We only have 20 minutes, but obviously SMEs continue to represent a critical catalyst for economic growth here in the region, but not without their complexities and nuances, especially when it comes to cap raising. In this session, we'll look at some of those nuances around SME financing when we look at the complexities within the family-owned SME world, what it takes to raise money successfully, and the role of private equity and family office in doing so, and how SMEs can become investable and fundable in terms of avoiding the pitfalls of chasing short-term valuations, but actually striving for long-term sustainable growth. Before we kick off, Dr. Anurag, Alvaro, if you can just say a few words on yourselves and where you're from.
So my name is Dr. Anurag Guglani. I'm closer to 30 years here in this part of the world. We operate businesses in 26 different industries in 24 countries of Middle East, Africa, Southwest Asia, and some parts of North America. I sit on the board of some of the largest family business groups, and I'm also the chairperson of Wazir Holdings, which is a multi-family office which co-invests along with large family business groups and takes them on the path of building profitable, scalable, sustainable businesses.
Alvaro.
Before I do that, I'd like to take maybe something unusual, but just 30 seconds, something that is also very effective in these graveyard shifts. Last panel of the day. Well, we all stand up.
We can do this Google stuff. You're not going to believe where he actually works. We'll see you next. You're the trainer.
I think it's just to get the energy flowing again. So, Alvaro Abella, I'm a Spaniard. I've been here for about 20 years, mostly in the investment space. And hopefully, whatever we have to share with you guys might be a little bit interesting for you guys. Just a show of hands, business owners or people in family businesses. Wow. Okay, interesting. I think it might be a very good panel then. Maybe we can also ask the people in the audience.
Yeah, definitely. We'll open up to Q&A at the end for sure.
Great.
We'll start with you, Anurag. As you say, you've been advising businesses around the world, cross-sector, helping companies scale profitably. When we think about SMEs and cap raising in this region specifically, obviously the family office network and the family business and conglomerate ecosystem is widespread and a huge part of that. How should business owners and investors, I guess, on both sides, consider that relationship between SMEs and kind of family conglomerates and family offices?
So actually there is a very thin line between SMEs and family businesses, because every business which has today become a large family business group originated as an SME, and because in this part of the world the market size is small, which is why family businesses generally are a cluster of SMEs, because you would find them in 24, 25 different businesses. Each of that business, while it is run independently, but it comes under a corporate structure, right? So which makes it a family business group. So you can only become billion-dollar groups if you grow horizontally and vertically, and which is why, like I said, we operate in 26 different industries in 24 countries. That's the only way to make it happen. However, when it comes to financing, both are very different animals because of the structure which is there in between both of them. Family businesses are very legacy driven, very emotionally attached to control, and if they go for financing, they would pretty much go for financing for driving growth or generational transition. Whereas most of the SMEs seek funding to come out of the problem of a cash flow management or shrinking margins or shrinking profitability. So there are two very diverse scenarios when both of them are seeking finance or capital.
Thanks, Anurag. And I guess when we talk about nuances of relationships, obviously if we think the relationship between the SME or portco and investor, right? It could be individual, it could be strategic, it could be institutional. I think increasingly a lot of high growth businesses are more reluctant to relinquish equity, or maybe a bit skittish to go to institutional venture and looking more to private equity. So I guess, Alvaro, when you're assessing deal flow and when you're looking at SMEs, what are the ideal criteria you look for an SME that's tailored specifically for PE funding?
I think the question that both of you are sort of hinting at is, what's the real reason that founders or business owners look for financing? What do you really want to do? If you're trying to get yourself out of trouble, the best way is to help yourself, right? So if you go to a bank and you're asking for a facility to get you out of a cash flow hole, remember, bankers, any bankers in the room? Can I say something bad about bankers? We deal with them constantly as PE investors, and they're always there to help you when you don't need the money, and when you do need it, they're never there. They actually make things a lot harder. So the best way is to sort of help yourself out. I was one of the early investors in Karim with another venture firm that I co-founded, and I was on the board and talking with one of the founders, Mudassar. He was always, somebody said in the previous session, quality is about leadership. And I think it's sort of that drive. For me, the most important thing is drive. And the guy always said, the best way is to finance ourselves. Get out and get customer accounts. So getting as many customers as possible and financing yourself as a business, that was the easiest way. But then, sorry, I'm taking a little bit too much time here.
Please.
But going back to your question, I would say, when we approach a business or a business comes to us through intermediaries, like the Deloittes or the E&Ys of this world, right? They typically say, well, we have this growth plan. And so having real, clearly articulated growth potential, the ability to scale, I think that's what attracts, whether it's institutional investors, such as private equity investors, such as ourselves, or really any investor. At the end of the day, you're always selling your business, right? As a business owner, you're selling a story. You're selling what is it that you're going to do with this business? Where are you going to go? And I think that's the biggest question that a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners sort of have trouble grappling with. They need to envision where they're going to be in 5 years' time and then execute to that.
I think just switching gears from the kind of the lens on the SME and pivoting to the lens on the investor. I think seldom do we put investors to task, and we're always talking about the companies. Anurag, as an investor operator who's kind of really hands-on in helping build enterprise value and value creation for the companies that you advise, what do you think is the key that the SMEs need to think about in terms of driving operational efficiency and robustness and long-term sustainable growth rather than kind of short-term valuation chasing?
So actually this investor operator model was evolved because of trying to hit two birds with one stone. We had two problems. One, a family business, 70% of them do not survive into second generation, 90% don't survive into third generation, and which is a massive problem for the economy in which we sit in, because livelihood of many people is dependent on those family businesses, right? So, and then you have this unique problem of the kids of today who have grown up in luxury in this part of the world and who've gone to the Western world to study, and when they come back, they got a very overview of a corporate structure, but when they come back into their family business, they find that this is not exactly how they envisioned their father would be or mother would be making money, right? It is run in a very traditional manner. It is not that as exciting as they thought it would be. So you got to make the business exciting enough on how to get them in. And then on the same scenario, you have this MSME problem of not being able to raise funding from the traditional sectors because they don't have enough collateral or credibility. So we said, okay, why don't we create a situation where family businesses can support the MSME sector and go hand in hand in taking that together. So one of the model which we developed was as a multi-family office, co-investing along with family business groups into MSMEs in taking them on the path of growth profitability, but in a model where we own majority equity. Majority means about 51, but there is a plug and play mechanism under a family business group where there is a corporate structure created. They can just come in, start with their innovation, with their tech, focus on that, while every other aspect of business is already taken care of in a structure which is well established. And then that gives that edge to the family business also, because in family business we are at the same time adopting the latest technologies. Just now I was talking in another panel on how successfully we have adopted AI in family businesses and SMEs here, and absolutely had tremendous results on things like reconciliations, on bank accounts, on MIS consolidation and all those kind of stuff. So that structure is available automatically to an MSME, which will take them years to achieve. That's a beautiful marriage, and which is how those nuances between, or that working partnership between both can be created.
Dr. Anwar, you're like a Berkshire Hathaway, basically. You have the platform for, I'm assuming you're providing them with financial reporting, you're providing with HR, you're supporting them with a lot of back office, and they just focus on operations and the commercial side.
So we are more deeper involved in that because we know the art of building profitable, scalable, sustainable businesses. So we go into the deep trenches, we make our hands dirty, we get involved in running or operating the business also. So idea is that we are filling the gaps, whichever are the gaps with those founders of those MSMEs, in order to reverse the failure rate. That's the objective.
Just sticking on that theme, kind of from a PE perspective, obviously Gulf Capital has such a tremendous track record in the region. How can private equity do more than just cap injection and just writing a check, and especially in a region where long-term trusted partnership and mutual value is paramount?
I mean, look, private equity really started here in this region about a decade and a half ago, really. I remember there was a super returns conference in Dubai in 2007, and there were about 100 different PE firms. Schwartzman, Steve Schwartzman of Blackstone was actually one of the key speakers, and he said, my prediction is there's going to be less than 30% of you guys in about 10 years time. Obviously he was talking about a fund cycle, about 10 years. He was actually very conservative. I think real firms, real PE firms operating in the region today are probably less than 15, the real ones that operate here. And that's because one of the issues, I think, is they focused on trying to do many different things. At the end of the day, the value that a PE investor really, the real value that we provide, obviously is access to capital, not only our capital, but through stakeholder relationships with banks, for instance. We're supposed to provide access to that financing or facilitate it, number one. Number two, the part on governance. So, we set up committees for auditing, set up through the board. The board is supposed to drive basically and have an oversight of the strategy, and management is just supposed to focus on operations. And everything else is on the strategy side, and everything else is governance and how to actually get to a larger level of growth, whether it's an IPO exit, whether it's selling to a larger strategic partner, and obviously if you're going public or if you're selling to a larger entity, they're going to do a lot of diligence. So having a PE investor is an initial way of going through that diligence process. So I think those two things, yep. Plus obviously, let's say any operational value add that we may really bring, it's really through our industry advisors and experts that we have linked to the firm. And I think a lot of PE firms, whether out west or here, they typically present that as a value add. Oh, we can bring in, a finance manager. We can bring in XYZ expert that is within our network. I think those are really the three things. And obviously opening up as well business opportunities. In the case of Gulf Capital, and here's a little bit of a pitch. I think you said we weren't supposed to do pitches for Gulf Capital, but I'll just do a cheeky one here.
You're doing it now, so carry on.
We're owned by 200 shareholders across the GCC, mostly families and institutions across the GCC. So we have a very good entry into most of the GCC markets, and we can very quickly get to, let's say, relevant business partners and opportunities in each of those markets. And we bring that to bear with our portfolio companies rather successfully. So we're also doing that the reverse. We're actually doing that now. We're looking at companies from outside in the region, either Europe or Asia, and helping them expand into the Gulf using our 2-decade track record of helping companies expand across the region.
Yeah, I mean, that combination of access to capital, strategic advisory, but also being able to outsource, office of the CFO or CCO is really potent.
Can I ask a question to those business owners and, family business operators? What are the two things that you really find challenging in the region? Anybody? Access to capital? Business partner and strategic investor. So those are like, if you actually look at empirical studies, and we've looked at these across Europe, mostly Europe, but there's some in Asia as well. Those are actually the two of the three main reasons why business owners tend to look for in a foreign partner, or the ability. What are the main barriers, the main challenges that they want help with? Access to capital, strategic capital. Number 2, understanding the quality of the business partner. Number 3, licensing, jurisdiction, legal issues in new markets. So you guys are pretty much on average, on par with the empirical studies. Good job.
I think we are close to time, so I think just one last comment from you both as a takeaway and something practical for the audience to take away. Given that most of you here are business owners rather than investors, scrutiny is now on fundamentals and first principles. We're out the frothiness of a few years ago. What is your silver bullet piece of advice to business owners in terms of how to present yourself as truly investable, and what are the kind of core priorities that they need to focus on?
Well, in my opinion, actually, I have seen funding is never the problem. Sometimes the problem starts post-funding, because it is your investment readiness, the business being ready to absorb an investment and being able to do the right things with it is one of the most crucial elements which is really missed, because businesses are not that easy to operate once funding is there. I'm sure a lot of capital is already flowing in this market. If you tell the right story, funding can come in, but it doesn't mean everyone who has been invested has created a success story around it.
Yeah, I would also say maybe 3 things. One is make sure that your business has long-term sustainable profitability. That is, obviously hard to foresee, but you have to have a very clearly articulated proposition. The days, especially, now recently, 2021, 2022, and then before that, in the early 2000s, businesses that, no, don't worry, growth is in the future, and just give me money and we'll figure out the profitability later. That's gone. It might come back sometime in the future, but in today's world, forget about it. Long-term, sustainable, profitable propositions, number 1. Number 2, I think having that articulated vision for the business. Where do you want to take it? If you're going to bring investors, as Dr. Anurag is saying, you have to be able to stand the test of scrutiny. And the scrutiny is going to be also on your ability to articulate a rational strategy moving forward. And number 3, most importantly, I would say, is transparency. I think the fact that we're becoming more and more going more into the digital age, and it's going to be very, very difficult to hide information. Information will always show up more and more. So your ability to provide a transparency, clarity around your business, your figures, is key.
So clear articulation of the value prop, clear articulation of scalability, and clear articulation of transparency. Is that fair? That's the takeaway?
Good
Perfect.
stuff.
I think we are at time. I don't think we have time for Q&A, but obviously Anurag and Alvaro will be around in the conference area. Do continue the conversation, ask discussions, but just to wrap up, huge thank you to you all again for joining, and thanks to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for this speech. And please, why are you posing without me?